On this episode of the Leader Wrestle Zone, we're going to talk about three wrestling shows, which I like to call Tuesday Wrestling. One was AEW Dark, the Impact Wrestling, and the NWA, which they actually showed NWA 70. So we're going to do a quick review on all three of these shows, and we're going to go from there. So sit back, relax, welcome to the Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up. 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 Get up, get up.
Hey everyone, this is J Rod here. Hope everybody's having a good time, making sure you guys are staying safe. Wash your hands, as everybody been saying throughout social media, or certain people keep saying the same old thing. So, hope as you know, wrestling has been in a turmoil at the moment due to COVID-19. It's kind of been hard. Certain wrestling promotions had been downsized through restrictions. Um, some had to wrestle with no crowds, that type of thing. But they'll try to do the best as we can. People are saying wrestling's always been an escape from whatever's going on outside the world, but they're going to do the best they can to keep us entertained for the time being while this whole thing blows over. So let's start with AEW Dark. So AEW just had their recent Dark episode last week, and they broadcasted this coming Tuesday. So let's start with the first match they put out for AEW Dark. First match of the night was Boom Boom Colt Cabana versus the Librarian along with Leva Bates. Now, this is one of those matches for me that I enjoy. You see, I like certain matches that kind of we can talk about. This is one of them. Like, it doesn't matter if it's a brutal story, a brutal match, or comedy, or a good story to be told. You know, this one was very more comedic by Colt Cabana because I have seen many of his matches like anywhere on YouTube, but this is one of them that kind of exploded on me because I was like enjoying what he was throwing right at Peter Avalon. There was a moment he had a book. He was reading it. Leva Bates didn't like it, but he was being a gentleman towards her. And there were several moments he actually put out, like the matches, how he was setting up, like certain submissions, um, certain escapes. One of those infamous moves when he goes by the turnbuckle and just go, hey, that type of thing. It was great entertainment, but there was the thing that ended the match is where he and Peter Avalon were playing a little tug of war with Leva Bates, kind of like tearing her apart. It was so crazy. And at some point, Peter kind of grabbed onto her in a position kind of like I like to call the tango pose. You know what I'm talking about? The tango pose where the woman's right there, you glaze in her eyes. There was a moment where Peter was about to kiss her, but Colt actually grabbed her, grabbed Peter and kissed him on the cheek. That was a classic thing. I never would have thought that would happen. And he did clothesline him back into the ring, but he did the Superman move on him, and he won the match like that. I was like, wow, that's one of those matches that I would love to watch over and over and over. Because it's Colt Cabana. Come on, who doesn't love Colt Cabana? Next match, we had a hybrid two, Jack Evans and Angelico versus Brandon Cutler and Michael Nagasawa. Now, this is the first time I think Cutler, Brandon, and Michael teamed up. But I have to say that this match kind of, how do I put this? You see more and more build up with Brandon Cutler because I don't know if you guys know his story. He started as a wrestler with the Bucks a long time ago. Then he took a 7 year hiatus from wrestling, and then he just recently came back. He, I think it was in 2018. I think they're still trying to build him up. Give him a good solid work for him because he looks a lot of more potential. As for Michael, he is who he is. He's very comedic, kind of like Cole Cabana. Of course, he had the Turkish oil stuff with it, the oil with him, and it's so crazy. But of course, there was a moment throughout the match. Brandon Cutler was more like a one-man wrecking machine. He looked like he was going to carry the team to the top, but frankly, it didn't happen that way. Jack Evans pulled up the 630 move on him and won the match like that. But I have to say, I think this is one of the best matches that I ever seen with Brandon Cutler, and that's not my opinion, but that's like a fact because if you've seen him how he's been doing things in this match, it kind of now show him okay. Now he's looks like he's rising the occasion. Just pay attention to that match, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Next match was Rio versus Penelope Ford. Now this match played an important role because Rio is currently in the number 2 rank of the women's division in AEW. Penelope, well, she's rankless. So the stipulation was in what Taz and Excalibur mentioned, this could if Penelope was able to beat Rio, that would be the biggest upset. Then she could rise the ranks. But I'm not sure exactly yet. Um, we just gotta wait and see the rankings how they're gonna go with this. And throughout the match, there were some moves that were being very counter. Like, um, for example, you know how Penelope Ford bends over backwards and she gets her hands on the other side. Well, she did that twice. Second time, it did not work because Rio stomped her right in the gut. But as always, Penelope Ford's boyfriend, Kip Sabian, got in the way, costing her the match, tried to interfere her, and that kind of made things a lot, you know, difficult. And of course, it was one of the biggest upsets that we have ever seen in this thing. So I'm still waiting on who's gonna, you know, how her stats is gonna be, but we just gotta wait. Then the final match, the main event for AEW Dark was Christopher Daniels versus Stu Grayson. Now, this whole rivalry between SCU and how do I say and Dark Order has been becoming explosive. Of course, we've been seeing Dark Order has been mentioning about what's the Exalted One. We still don't know. Christopher Daniels is still indicating that the whole thing's a lie. There is no Exalted One, and this and that. So it kind of been going like that. But under referee's orders, he told SCU and the members of Dark Order, Evil Uno, Reynolds, and Silver to leave. And of course, Dark Order doesn't want to do that. But this match kind of became more escalation. Of course, there was a moment that I saw where um, Stu was trying to pull off the best moonsault ever, one of Daniels' moves. I mean, come on, no one does it better than he does. And Daniels did some interesting submission. I don't know what it is, but it's pretty cool. And of course, because of that, he allowed the win. But post match, Dark Order shows up and attack Daniels. Here comes SCU's Scorpio and Frankie, along with Boom Boom Cabana, to make the save. And of course, Daniels is still telling everybody there is no Exalted One, but we gotta wait to see who he is. And I think that's it. What's happened with AEW Dark. So we'll don't know yet about next week because of what's been going on recently with the world and also in the wrestling world, what's been affecting due to the pandemic. But we just gotta wait and see. So I'll be right back with more coming up. We got Impact Wrestling. All right, so we're back with Impact Wrestling. So let's start with a little bit of the recap. What happened? Um, if you guys like to know what happened, there was a match for the best of five series between Michael Elgin and Eddie Edwards. Now each of them are actually were tied 2-2 or something like that. 3 out of 5 series. I don't know. I think it was 3 out of 5. Yes, 3 out of 5 series. And whoever wins this match will get an opportunity to face Tessa Blanchard for the Impact World Champion. So what happened is there was a state of confusion. One ref saw that Eddie Edwards had Michael Elgin uh, flat on his back while he had him in a submission, and he counted out Michael Elgin. He was pinned. Another ref saw that Eddie Edwards tapped out. There was a bit of confusion. So they didn't know what to do. So Tessa came up with the perfect solution. She was going to face both. And that's what happened. So she really kind of solved the problem a little bit. And that's how I see it. So we'll go on with more about the whole thing in a little later. First match of the night was for the tag team championship between the North, who are the current champions, versus TJP and Fahaba. Now, this match, I love it. It was so great because much of what the North were doing, Ethan Page was he's like doing the trying to counter everything outside the ring. Whatever moves that either TJP or Fahaba were trying to do, he tries to counter those moves. But it was great psychological way. I don't know how you call it. It's something psychological. I can't pronounce it, but I loved it. But in my opinion, I've always thought TJP and Fahaba were going to win it because they have become a great tag team. I mean, they don't have like the much of experience like the North has or any other tag team that we know of, such as the Bucks, the Revival, the Hardys, the Road Warriors, those guys. So I enjoyed everything. And there were some moments it looked like that Fahaba and TJP were going to win this one, but it didn't. They were so close. So they lost, and the North retained the tag team division. I was like, damn, but it was good. I have to say I love this match of the day. So next up we got as you all know, lockdown is coming up, but apparently they're postponing it because of the pandemic. What's gonna happen is Eddie Edwards and Michael Elgin are in it. So Eddie Edwards already picked who's gonna be on his team. You see, in lockdown, what they do, one guy picks three more people to be on their team. So Eddie Edwards already chosen his teammates. He chose the Impact World Champion Tessa Blanchard, Daga, and Tommy Dreamer. So those three are part of his team, which is kind of interesting, you know. And I'll get to Michael Elgin's team a little later because they did announce that later on on their episode. Then we see a little shit where Taya is still trying to deal with the fact that she still lost a week ago to Tessa. No, 2 weeks ago to Tessa. She was in a bar drinking and she meets with Rosemary, who's still dealing with the dilemma, knowing that she brought back Sue Young, but it wouldn't bring back Allie, or who we know as the Bunny. which was so crazy. And I'm like, damn. And she had Taya had her two friends. They were a bit creeped out, which it felt like a family sitcom type of thing. I just couldn't stop laughing of that. Uh, then we see recently these couple weeks we've been seeing Impact has been dealing with this unknown hacker who calls himself ICU with ICU. So nobody knows who he is, who's been making these cyber attacks. So uh, what's his name? Executive Vice President Scott Demore had security guards everywhere trying to determine who has been making these hacks, and it's still unclear who throughout the entire night. Uh, then of course we go to a match. Was the debut match of Chris Bay. Now, Chris Bay has been mentioned a lot of times in the that he was going to be, and he's one of the biggest independent stars before signing with AEW with Impact Wrestling. So he made his debut. This one was a good one, but it was also more of a squash match because I never seen his opponent before. His name is Damian Drake. So just to skip ahead, um, Chris Bay won. That's how I see it. Now we move on to what was it? Oh yeah, flashback moment of the week. Who could forget when Ken Shamrock was there at the early time of TNA before it became Impact, and it was great. You know how he was the first champion, and of course he showed up there later on. So it was still unclear why he was there, but we'll get to that in a bit. So Jordan Grace was out in the locker room as always by herself. She gets approached by Alicia Edwards, Eddie Edwards' wife. How apparently they're gonna have a women's lockdown. Same kind of similar thing to kind of like what we're seeing with War Games this past year, this year. So I'm excited for that because Jordan is team captain, and Alicia Edwards is now in her team. So that means she needs two more. Still no clue who's the opponent, who's going to be in it, but my guess is either Madison Rain or Kara Hogan. One of the two. But we'll see what happens. We see an interview with. No, no. Oh, yes. Now I remember this one. Tennille Dashwood is set to return back to Impact. As you may or may not know, she was not signed exclusively to Impact, but hopefully she did sign because they could use someone like her. Because if you remember her, she was known as Emma back in WWE. She didn't get very well. They didn't do anything well for her. So she'll be back soon. Then we have an interview with Chase Stevens, who was part of the early times of TNA. If you remember, he was so excited, but they were mentioning a TNA reunion, No Place Like Home, which currently is now postponed because of the pandemic. Here comes Moose, who the self-proclaimed Mr. Impact, disrespecting him. He was disrespecting him because he says nobody cares about people from that time. They Moose doesn't understand. These guys played an important role being there from the start, but he doesn't care and end up in the brawl. Then we have the gut check. Now this is kind of like similar to what they're doing in NXT, but they don't, or Tough Enough, if you recall. Yeah, Tough Enough. Now remember, it's kind of like Tough Enough, but they're using one of their elite Canadian friends, Border City Wrestling, uh, as one of their how to say training facilities. They don't have like like a performance center. But I was so amazed how this whole thing was going. And I think the winner of this was Shogun. I think that's the guy's name. I just gotta look it up. Then we see an interview with Tessa along with Jimmy Jacobs. Now, from what's happening, Jimmy Jacobs wanted to know from Tessa why she picked both Micah Elgin and Eddie Edwards, and the story fits perfectly because Tessa needs to prove herself that she is the best. And one of the things that kind of made it clear, like in the way they're putting the story, she has a target on her back. She knows that people will be coming after her for her title. Look what happened with Tail Valkyrie. She wanted to take everything from her again, but this time no success. So she's not afraid. She's willing to go in this match in a triple threat in Rebellion, but come out as the champion. So it's official. It's going to be a three-way. Then we have this brand new group that was formed with the formerly King of Sleaze, Joey Ryan, and RVD and Katie Forbes, calling themselves cancel culture. This is an interesting story where they're kind of ranting out about how people are trolling them, not giving them the respect of their humanity as they deserve. And much of Katie Forbes, she likes to show off a lot of skin, but now she's covering. Joey Ryan was wearing a turtleneck, and RVD still RVD. They were facing against the Deaners, which was interesting. Um, I'll skip ahead more on this one. Cancel culture won, and they made it clear they were going to cancel the Deaners, which they did. Then we see oh yeah, then we see a women's match between Kara Hogan and Lacey Evans. Now this one was a very interesting match. Now, I'm not saying it was the best match of the night, but it was interesting. They introduced Lacey Ryan a week ago when she was facing what's her name, Jordan Grace, but she lost. But it showed more of Lacey in her in-ring work, and there was some great submissions, great chops from her. I enjoyed it, and Kara Hogan, as always, you know. So apparently, Kara Hogan won, but I gave Lacey Ryan a huge applause for showing her in-ring work. I know she has to build up more. So we'll just gotta wait and see what's gonna happen with her and down the line in the future. Then we see Willie Mack, who was still not clear why Ace Austin helps him because Willie Mack was already teaming with Rich Swann for the Impact titles, but Johnny Stewart came into his try to be his partner, but he rather wait for Rich Swann. But Ace Austin, who is the current X Division champion, kind of try to say that he believes in him, but what he doesn't realize, apparently, Willie Mack has been booked to be part of the X Division match in a ladder match for his title. So basically, Ace Austin screwed himself on this one. So he should have known better. Then here's an interesting story about Su Young. She received a letter from Father James Mitchell. I think this is what led to her no longer being with them because she's now a free agent. Father James Mitchell is set up a match between her and Jessica Havoc at the Undead Realm. So this is gonna be more like a final confrontation between the two, and it's kind of like what happened with Ali and Rosemary. But we just gotta wait and see what's gonna happen on this one. And then Michael Elgin, since we all know he's gonna be in lockdown, he's team captain for one team. He kind of played this psychological thing, like, why'd you pick Tessa? Tessa, do you know he's coming after you? That he's I think Tessa knows it. I think she's like, I know he's gonna come for me, but this is not the time for that. So Michael Elgin played a psychology as well, where he got Tessa's longtime rival Taya, and of course he picked the North as the final two. So it's kind of an interesting matchup that's going to happen for Lockdown. But like I said, Lockdown is being postponed at this very point. Still no word from Impact when it's going to come back, but I'm excited what's going to happen. Um, yeah, and then we have the final match of the night. It was Jay Chris of OVE versus Daga. There was a lot of high flying moves from both were great. Uh, I'm just gonna fast forward a little bit. Daga won. I was impressed. I've always been impressed with Daga. I met him once, but he's great. But the final ending of Impact was why was Ken Shamrock was there. So what happened is Josh, the guy one of the commentators announced that Ken Shamrock has now been inducted into the Impact Hall of Fame, and it's a huge honor for Ken Shamrock. But out of nowhere, here comes this hacker who's been causing all this ruckus. No one knows who he is. And all of a sudden, he shows up right in front of Ken Shamrock and throws a fireball on it. It reveals who it was. It was Sammy Callahan. It was unclear why he did it, why he would attack, why he goes becoming a hacker. Makes no sense. But I like it. I like how he's going with this whole thing with being a hacker and he just shows up. He disappeared with it. When he goes with his phone, he does this. Lights turn off and he disappeared. I have to say some things with Impact for this episode was great. I know they can build up. They're trying to be more edgier as possible. Try to bring a little bit of the Attitude Era. But I'm excited. Uh, don't know what's gonna happen afterwards because I know they're gonna show another episode because this episode was already been taped and then they broadcasted it maybe 2 weeks in advance. I'm not sure, but we'll see what happens. I know they will have to stop doing shows for the time being because of the pandemic. So I think that's it for now for Impact. Coming up, there was no NWA Super Power, but they decided to do something cool for us, even though I didn't see it. I did not watch it. It's I'll explain to you when we get there. So I'll be right back. All right. Um, NWA did not have their usual the show they promised they were going to show was Superpower, which was supposed to be for today, but I think they had to change because they want to keep up with the content due to the pandemic. So instead, they decided to throw out the NWA 70 that took place 2 years ago in Nashville, Tennessee, and this was basically the rematch that took place after All In when Cody beat Nick Aldis for the NWA World Title. So I didn't see it. I never did saw it because um, this was pay per view. I didn't know. I didn't even know that you can watch it on Fight TV. But luckily for us, they actually posted it for free. Down on YouTube. But they did edit some stuff due to the fact of the pandemic. It started out with Nick Aldis giving a message saying how deeply sorry They are knowing that they have to suspend the Crockett Cup and several of their tapings because of this. Um, but he said he's trying to find ways to keep some original content going because what we're now dealing with the crisis and all this other stuff. And he tells us to be safe, to look out for one another, don't panic. And to be honest with you, I'm not panicking. I try to relax because I know we all can get through this because we can't let fear take over us. I know people can be afraid. I mean, I'm afraid, but I'm not gonna demonstrate it. But anyway, this show was great. I did not expect it how it went, even though it was 2 years uh, old. But I'm gonna try to link it in the description down below so you guys can see it. If you haven't, then it's great. So it started out with Nick Aldis and Cody due to what happened in All In about this whole thing with the best champions that ever lived in for the NWA World Title and all this and that, and it was so unbelievable. And for commentary, I was surprised to find out who was there. I didn't know Joe Galli was already there, along with Cornette. But the surprise person who was commentary was Tony Schiavone, as we all know him as the voice of WCW, currently now working AEW. So this is like 2 years prior, before going signing with AEW. And we had an interview with Colt Cabana. Now, this one was Colt Cabana was part of the uh, NWA National Championship. This is where they were already trying to figure out who's going to be the champion for this one because this is around the time when NWA decided they want to step away from Ring of Honor and do their own thing. And Colt was in it, part of Stage 1, Match A. He gets interrupted by Sammy Guevara, the Spanish God, before he became the Spanish God. So he was in the same match, Match A. And the match started out great. We did saw Scorpio Sky, the little promo about how it's great that the territories are somewhat coming back because I feel like it feels like we are coming back. I don't know how to say it, but I'm so stoked. So, uh, the people involved in Match A was other than Colt Cabana, Sammy Guevara, and uh, Scorpio Sky, and this guy named Samuel Ash. Now I don't know who he is, but that dude was a beast. So the match went unbelievable. There was moments with Sammy, Colt, but I'm gonna tell you how this match went because they went by through elimination, either by pinfall or submission. First person to be eliminated by pinfall was Colt Cabana, then Sammy, then Scorpio Sky, but the winner was Samuel Ash. So I don't know who he was, but I mean, people were expecting Colt Cabana, and I didn't know about that, but it would make perfect sense because if you all recall, Colt Cabana was the national champion until he lost the title to that dipwit Aaron Stevens. Then we see a ringside interview with legendary luchador Blue Demon Jr. If you guys don't know who he is, he's the son of Blue Demon from the time of where El Santo was around. What Here's a fun fact about him: he was NWA World Heavyweight Champion from 2008 and 2010, and they did had an NWA down in Mexico. If you guys didn't know that, so look it up. You'll be interested. But he did say that either whoever wins between Cody or Nick Aldis, he would like to challenge for that title. And I don't know if that happened, but if it did, I gotta find it. Um, then we had a interesting light heavyweight, junior heavyweight, or cruiserweight match between Mexican sensation Laredo Kid versus Barrett Brown. Now, here's another fun fact about Barrett Brown. Barrett Brown was the last NWA World Junior Heavyweight Champion before NWA was purchased by uh, Billy. Corgan. So it's surprising he was there, and I didn't know about this. So basically, here in the Elite Wrestle Zone, we learned some things, and this is a perfect example. Even though this match is 2 years old, we get to learn a lot of things, and you guys get to learn new things. I get to learn new things. So that's what the Elite Wrestle Zone is all about. So moving on, it was a great match. Great high flying. Uh, I think the side of me was thinking Laredo Kid was gonna win, but I was wrong. It was Barrett Brown. But I don't know where he is now. I heard that he was working with WWE and other promotions or Impact. I'm not sure, but I would like to see this kid come back. To NWA. I just they should bring back the junior heavyweight. You guys tell me what you think. And then we see a competitor for the match B for the NWA National Championship, Mike Perro. Now, this guy is a huge ass behemoth, but twist to it, he's homosexual. Nothing wrong with that. Got nothing against it, but he shows that aggressiveness that people say because we all seen gay people, but this guy in the ring he plays that like that giant monster that he should be, and there's nothing wrong with that. I don't know why people don't see that. And then we see an interview with Willie Mack, who's also in match B. He gets interrupted by Jay Bradley, another person competing in that match, in match B. And he gets interrupted too by James Ellsworth. Yeah, you know him from the guy who hanged out with Camila. And basically, he was trying to explore himself, all this stuff, but it, it's great. Then we see, so then all of a sudden the commentators were being picked on by Ricky Starks, who's also in that same match, trying to expose more of himself. But this is before he became the NWA television champion, and he was more of the cocky type, if you know what I mean. So then we have Magnum TA. If you guys know who he is, he's been with the NWA before, along with Tully Blanchard, until he was forced to retire back in 1986 due to an accident. But fun fact here, he's the stepfather of Tessa Blanchard. Yeah, stepfather. So basically, other than her father Tilly being a wrestler, so is her stepdad. How cool is that? Fun facts. You're learning more things. Stay with me, people. So what he was there for is that he's going to present the title of the NWA National Championship. Whoever wins the final match, whoever wins, since we know Samuel Ash is the winner of the match A, whoever's going to be winner of match B, and whoever wins between those two becomes the national champion actually. Now let's go with the match B. For that, it was Ricky Starks, Mike Perro, Jay Bradley, and Willie Mack. Um, let's just skip ahead. Who got eliminated by how? We had Mike Perro, Jay Bradley, and Ricky Starks. So Willie Mack becomes the winner. Now, post match, Willie Mack was about to talk. Here comes the other challenger, Samuel Shaw. He was trying to get a look at him, like saying, okay, we're going to face off. But here comes the sore loser, Jay Bradley, and assaults Willie Mack from behind. But James Ellsworth was there to help him, tried to be there, knowing that he's picking on the wrong person. So basically, that's how that ended. And then we see the rivalry between former NWA champion Tim Storm and Peter Avalon before he became the Liberian. So what happened is this took place in Championship Wrestling from Florida, from Orlando, Hollywood, where Tim Storm lost his cool not once but twice against Peter Avalon, trying to get to his head. So this rivalry has escalated so much between those two. So it became a match for that very same evening. And of course, there was a stipulation that put out that Peter wanted that put it out. He said that if he lost, he has to kiss his feet. But Tim Storm said if he lost, he has to do the same thing, but also with the fans around watching. So that was an interesting stipulation. And I can see that Tim Storm was keeping his cool, even though he's a veteran. So he played out well, and of course Peter Avalon lost the match, and Tim lost. But instead of giving the stipulation, his manager Nicholas Marquez decided to do it for him, while Tim Storm takes off his boot. I thought it was funny. We see a little promo with Jazz, if you guys remember her from WWE years ago. At the time, she was the NWA World Women's Champion, but she was putting her title on the line against Penelope Ford before she made a name for herself at the time when she made the appearance in All In. You know, for when she was with Joey Ryan at the time during that match with Hangman. So that's how she was recognized for that. But it was a brutal match, but at the same time, much of Penelope Ford was like exposed more of her her in ring ability. Um, Much of the moves that she does in this one is kind of like what we have always seen in AEW. But sadly, she didn't win. Jazz won. And post match of that match, Jazz said something that kind of was similar to what's going on now, where she would like to compete for the 10 pounds of gold. Like, I don't know what's the restrictions on that, or if NWA were planning to could do something like that because of what what's their name, what Impact has been doing. But we'll never know about that. So that's how it went. And then we see a former NWA champion, Double J Jeff Jarrett. He brought with him the NWA National Championship to be presented. And then a lot of things about him, saying that his grandmother was there in wrestling, selling tickets, and he and his dad were true promoters, and they're not wrong. So he gave the title to Magnum TA, knowing that he's going to be the one to present the title to whoever wins the final match. And of course, we start with that match. But here comes Samuel Ash, and from behind here comes Willie Mack. So they decided, you know what? It was a epic match between the two because both of them wanted it so bad. Um, Much of what Mac was trying to do is the same old thing, but every move he tried to take out Samuel Ash, and nothing was working. But I did enjoy how it ended, where Willie Mack picked up the victory and he became the national champion. But this is before Colt Cabana beat him for it. Then we see a recap from the All In match between Nick Aldis and Cody. Now, this is the very first time during this little promo Nick Aldis introduced his insurance policy named Camille. Now, her job was to ensure there was no funny business. And then we see a tag team match with the War Kings, former NWA champion Jax Dane, with Crimson alongside Road Warrior Animal. Josephus first came out with these two women who we thought, oh, he's going to have them wrestle War Kings, but nope, it was Shannon Moore and Crazy Steve. I'm just going to say who's the winner. It was War Kings. It was a great match. I loved it. So basically, a post match, Warrior Animal revealed what the plans were. the return of the Crockett Cup, which we all know is one of the most prestigious tournaments ever in the NWA based on tag team. I love that, and he brought it back. I haven't seen it, but I hope they put it on sooner because they're still trying to keep up with the content. Now, before we go to the main event, they brought out six former NWA World Heavyweight Champions. First, it was Dory Funk Jr., Tim Storm, Jack Stain, Colt Cabana, Blue Demon Jr., and Jeff Jarrett. And of course, these were champions of the NWA who are still here today. And then we go with the main event with Cody and Nick Aldis for the NWA World Champion. Now, this was 2 out of 3 falls. Now, much of this match, I'm going to put it out. Brandy was trying to get close to Cody, try to give him some encouragement. But the more she was trying to close to him, Camille tried to stop her, like get it in her face, like, nope, you're not getting near him. It's because the reason this happened. So basically, she doesn't want no encouragement to ensure that Cody wins. Because Nick Aldis tried to think that if he had Camille by his side, he still hasn't. But here's the best part about this whole match: nobody in Nashville were on Nick Aldis' side. It's the same thing that happened in All In. The city of Nashville were on the side of Cody. So basically, nobody supported Nick Aldis except for the 6 champions. Now, the first 2 matches, um, first fall, Nick Aldis won by submission, but Cody tapped out right away because that was the bad knee he had at the time. But he got up quicker and he went full on rapid to Nick Aldis. And of course, it kind of went great. In the second fall, Cody won. But here's the thing: both Hebners were there, the son and the father. So Brian took the first fall, Earl Hebner took the second. Now the third fall, well, they picked out who's going to be. It was going to be Brian Hebner. But much of this third fall, this is what happened. Brandy had enough of Camille getting in her face while trying to be by her husband's side. So she attacked her. And the the whole thing went out of control. Brian lost control of the match. So he had Camille, Brandy, and his champions evicted. So it was like great. But there was a moment before this match. Cody lost his boot thanks to Nick Aldis, where he tried to be outsmart, but he had in that one pinfall move, but somehow Nick Aldis was able to counteract faster. Cody was in shock, so Nick Aldis took the third fall, making him the winner. And so that's what led to now Aldis as the champion to this day. So I hope you guys enjoyed. So you can watch it. I will put the video on the description down below, and then you guys tell me what you think. Now, before I go, as you know, certain wrestling promotions not having are canceling, but GCW announced this on their Instagram page and Twitter. They're having the GCW Acid Cup 2 returning, but it's a 2-night, 16-person tournament. Now, here's the interesting part: it's closed to the public. So basically, it will not be open for all. Now, how can you watch this match? So if you guys subscribe to Independent Wrestling TV, you see it. Enter the promo code Game Changer, and that's how it is. You can follow this on on Game Changer Wrestling or GCW's Twitter or Instagram page, and it gives you all the information you need. So that is it. Hope you guys like this episode. So I must bid all of you adieu. Stay safe. Wash your hands. So goodbye. and have a nice day. Bang.